Hey gamers, Gecko here. I wonder what could have spurred this topic. I wonder how we could have got here. So, Dragon Ball FighterZ, am I right? If you're somehow out of the loop, on Sunday, Dragon Ball FighterZ got a brand new patch that changed a lot of different things in the game. Every single character got some form of adjustment, and generally, every character got buffed. I say generally because I haven't read the full patch notes. They're really long. And I've not seen anyone complaining about a nerf to a character apart from, like, Videl, it's less like she got nerfed and more like she didn't get buffed. Oh, Videl. Oh, Videl. God, you suck. But there has been a very mixed response to the patch. Some people are really enjoying the patch and really enjoying all the new combos that they get to do, all the crazy bullshit that they can find, and all the crazy things that they can post to Twitter. However, people who are more interested in actually playing the game seem to be less happy about it. If you don't know, the patch basically made it so that just about any character is able to get a touch of death consistently while using Spark, due to Spark now letting you special cancel into, well, special moves. Everyone turns into Exard Sin. It's fucking insane. Alongside this, with a bunch of characters getting buffed, there's a bunch of new things that all of the characters are able to do. However, people seem to be very angry about it, because now the game has turned much more into a one-touch type of game. Some characters are running around and basically able to one-shot opponents if they have any kind of resources. FighterZ has historically been around a 2 to 3 touch game, depending on the combos you do and where we look in the history. But now it is very possible to get a light normal on the opponent with 0 bar, and as long as you use your Spark, you're gonna kill someone. So, bad patch? This has kind of got me thinking. I'm so disconnected from Dragon Ball FighterZ, but when I see this patch, I would generally say it's probably kind of bad. This is the sort of patch that you make if you want people to get eyes on your game, which, to be fair, Dragon Ball's quite old, so they need some kind of marketing. Letting us post UI Goku combos that do the same move about 12 times and lead into death is probably the best they're going to get. But then, what makes a good patch? What is a patch that comes out that a lot of people like? What does a patch need in it for the community to be happy with it? Well, I've got a couple of points here that I want to go through. I'm going to bring up some examples from recent fighting game history to hopefully explain my point. So, let's start with the big one. In my opinion, a good patch keeps the power level of the game relatively the same since the previous version. Now, generally, as fighting games get older and more characters get added, the power level of the game slowly begins to rise. Games will generally start out at a baseline. Maybe there'll be a lot of bullshit in the game, but once we get more and more characters and more patches, that starting bullshit looks like nothing. For context, the thing that we really had to worry about at the start of Guilty Gear Strive was Soul's Farslash being +3 on block. For context, Slayer has a +4 on block Farslash, and he is generally considered, well, pretty good, but not top 5. I'm not saying the power level should go down over the course of the game, but when you increase the power level, it shouldn't be by a drastic amount. We can actually see this in Guilty Gear Strive. The Season 4 patch was generally seen as a bit of a disaster. Obviously, there were bugs and stuff, and I'm not gonna say that having bugs in a patch is excusable, but even when the bugs were fixed, Season 4 was a little bit funky and a little bit weird. A lot of people really didn't like the game. And the reason was several characters were shot up astronomically to a higher power level that we've basically not seen before. Ram and Potemkin were absolutely running rampant, without much that the opponents could do to stop them. Potemkin especially was absolutely dominating everywhere you looked. Their rise in power level meant that everyone else had to start playing really strong characters if they wanted to continue to play. Now, playing the lower tier characters wasn't really an option, because if you fight Potemkin and you have a bad matchup against him, you're kind of fucked. On top of that, a lot of characters got a lot of insane buffs. Even the mid-tiers were starting to do a lot of crazy bullshit. The power level of what you could get away with in the game had gone up by a lot. For context, Johnny got buffed like crazy around halfway through Season 3. He didn't get changed in Season 4 because everyone was basically brought to his power level. This was a dramatic shift that people were not really ready for. Especially because a lot of the community said they wanted the game to be more stable. But in the next patch, aka the recent one, that's basically what they did. They squished the gap between the high and the low tiers by nerfing the high tiers and buffing the low tiers. But because of that, the power level kind of stayed around the same. Several universal mechanics were nerfed, system changes were implemented, characters were nerfed according to tiers, and because of that, the power level of the game stayed around the same. Yes, it was still higher than Season 3, but it's a more acceptable level. It's less of a strange jump, so the community liked it more. If you get into a game and you really enjoy it, you probably enjoy the way that it is now or the way that it was sometime in the past. Having it dramatically shift will make it so that you don't want to play it that much. Next to that, we have the actual tools that characters are given. Tools should be given to characters who need it, not just because it's a fun thing to do. There's nothing worse than playing a fighting game and seeing a patch come out and the top tier gets a fun new toy to play with and your bottom tier is just getting nothing. This has been a problem with Videl a bunch in the past with Dragon Ball FighterZ. Since she doesn't have Reflect, she's not been able to get most of the Reflect changes, meaning that she's just kind of fallen down the tier list. Now is especially prevalent because everyone else gets a mini YRC from Xrd when they do a perfect Reflect. Except for Videl. The tools that are given to characters need to be warranted. They need to cover something that shouldn't have been a problem in their game plan to begin with, or enhance their game plan even more. Drivers had a very patchy history with this one, but my favorite example is Giovanna's Shove. If you don't know, doing 214HS on Giovanna puts her into a little bit of a stance, where all of her special moves are now improved. They gain added properties and added damage, allowing for extended combo routes or better knockdown situations, or just even more plus frames. This gave Gio a completely new way to go about basically everything in her toolkit. She's now able to get better knockdowns at more situations. She's able to get longer hitting combos that go from one side of the corner to the other if she really wanted them to. Her overall damage was up, and her general knockdown game was a lot better. Giovanna over the past few patches has been really well balanced in my opinion. They've taken away things from her that she doesn't really need, i.e. Guard Crush, and given her things that would really help, i.e. enhanced 214K being really fucking good right now. But then you have some tools that are given to characters where they're not really needed. And I think the Strive team knows this. The characters right now that don't have new moves are Kai, Sol, Leo, and Nago. And let's be real, what would you give these guys? They're all pretty well-rounded characters with very strong game plans and pretty well-defined win conditions. Giving them a new move would just throw things out of whack. So why would they? If you give a character a new move that they don't really need, it could really throw off their place in the tiers. If you try to cover up a weakness that was there for a reason, you could make them way stronger than they actually were supposed to be. So giving new things to characters is very important. Dragon Ball seems to not really care about this that much because they keep giving characters new things to do. This brings us to the next point. This is going to be a little bit scary to some of you, but nerfs are good. Nerfing a character means taking something away from them. Either reducing frame advantage, increasing startup on attacks, making moves less potent, or having them not work in some situations. Just taking something that the character has and taking it away from them, or making it weaker. Nerfs happen in every game that gets any kind of balance adjustment. Sometimes things are too powerful, and they need to be made worse. And that's a good thing. The easiest example of this is with Under Night 2. Uni 2 had a balance patch that went really bad. Basically, every character in the game got buffed, and once again, the power level of the game skyrocketed. All of the Uni fans complained. No one was having a good time because it started to feel less like Under Night and more like something else. The developers actually talked to people in the official Uni Discord and basically said they were scared to nerf characters because they were worried that people were going to get upset. If nerfs are justified and work to the health of the game, a lot of the time people don't get upset. Well, okay, sometimes people get upset. Sometimes people get really upset. But things being too powerful and being nerfed is just a natural part of the game. If it turns out the developers were wrong and this really shouldn't have been nerfed, then bringing it back to what it was is still an option. But if characters are running rampant and absolutely destroying games, trying to out-buff them is not necessarily the best idea. Sometimes just nerfing them and keeping the balance of the game is the best thing that you can do. Nerfs aren't as scary as they seem. As someone who's played characters who just keep getting nerfed, they're not as scary as they seem. Sure, eventually the characters end up getting buffed when I stop playing them, but let's not think about that. A lot of major patches add new system mechanics to the game that affect things in different ways. System mechanics on their own aren't inherently good or bad, but there's times and places to use them. Strive Season 3 is probably the best example of this. Season 3 added Wild Assault and Deflect Shield. Wild Assault was an offensive mechanic that let you do a lot of crazy bullshit, and Deflect Shield was basically a better get-off-me tool. Deflect Shield was okay, it was pretty useless when it first came out, but nowadays it's a niche option that covers quite a few scenarios, as long as you have the resources to do it and your opponent isn't expecting it. Wild Assault, however, was not something that the game really needed, and it threw the game into complete pandemonium. When Wild Assault first came out, using Wild Assault against a wall-stuck opponent would cause a hard knockdown, meaning that every combo that any character did ever was able to give you a hard knockdown after wall break. It was, to say the least, fucked, and it completely threw the game out of balance. It addressed an issue that wasn't there. Wild Assault would have worked if players' offense wasn't potent enough and their combos weren't strong enough. This is Guilty Gear Strive, where combos are already doing half health and hard knockdowns can lead to two-touch situations. It created a problem instead of addressing one. A better example of this would probably be V-Shift from Street Fighter V. If you don't remember, Street Fighter V was a very weird game, but a big problem it had was it was way too offensive. The only defensive tool that you basically had, apart from reversal DP, that cost a bar of meter, by the way, was to use V-Reversal, which was a get-off-me tool that you had to get your ass kicked in order to use. To address this, they added V-Shift, which still used the V-gauge, but now worked kind of like a pseudo backstep parry. You would V-Shift, and if your opponent hit you, you would be able to get them off you and return the game to neutral, while getting a bit of your V-gauge back. It addressed a major issue with the game, being that there's basically no defensive options, and because of that, the game got a little bit healthier. V-Shift is generally seen as a pretty good mechanic nowadays, for the 5 people who played Street Fighter V. I don't know, go ask Brian F if V-Shift was good. I literally don't remember. I remember it being received good. I didn't play Street Fighter V though. And finally, of course, the best way to make a balance patch good is if I play a character, you buff the shit out of them. But only for me. Developers never seem to do this. They need to make it so that when I play a character, they're like giga broken. I get like the boss version of the character. But then everyone else, they play like a normal, worse version of the character, so I look good. I don't know why developers don't do this. Like, this is something that needs to be addressed. Alexis, you should get on this now. So those are my opinions on what makes a good balance patch. Let me know if you have any opinions about this in the comment section below, or come over to my Twitch. We're streaming Uma Musume Pretty Derby right now. I still haven't played it, so we're playing it now, because why not? These are things that I have noticed. There's probably a couple of things I've missed, so please let me know if you know them. Damn, I'm good at being a YouTuber. Subscribe right now! Thank you all for watching. I'll see you over on the Twitch, and if not, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye!